created, or with God's help, created a character by the name of Onion, who's a boy. And this book begins in Kansas Territory, near the town of Osawatomie, where Onion, his real name is Henry Shackelford, is kidnapped by John Brown, who believes that Henry is Henrietta. And throughout the book, this 12-year-old boy pretends to be a girl, because at first he's so terrified, and then it just, it's just like it's like getting married, So it's all right first 5 or 6 years, and then why? You're in it. So anyway, I'm not married anymore. I guess that's. But anyway, the book begins in a tavern. Henry Onion. He's called Onion by John Brown calls him Onion. He calls him Onion because after he kidnaps him, he gives him some of his good luck charms, and one of these things is like a dusty little feather-covered piece of junk, and the boy, he dusts it off, and he sees an onion, and he just gets this powerful kidnapping white man wants him to eat it, so he eats the onion, which horrifies John Brown. He says, "This was my good luck charm. You just hate it." So he calls him Onion. He's Onion throughout the book. But at the beginning, Onion's working in a tavern with his father. And this describes John Brown's first entrance into his life. Begins with him discussing his father a bit, and then the entrance of John Brown into this tavern. This tavern is in Missouri, is in Kansas Territory, right near the Missouri border. And John Brown comes in because Henry's father is a barber, but he likes to preach the gospel. That's his real avocation. He preaches the gospel to souls one at a time. So this man enters the barbershop, and the father, who cuts hair, gets busy cutting the fellow's hair, and the son, Henry, shines shoes. They get ready to get to work when this fellow comes in. So this is when John Brown enters in disguise to spy on the pro-slavers of Missouri. What my pa lacked in size, he made up for with his voice. My pa could out-yell with his voice any white man who ever walked God's green earth, bar none. Pa had a high, thin voice. When he talked, it sounded like he had a Jew's harp stuck down his throat, or he spoke in pops and bangs and such, which meant speaking with Pa was a 2-for-1 deal, being that he cleaned your face and spit washed before you at the same time. Make that 3-for-1 when you consider his breath. His breath smelled like hard guts and sawdust, for he worked in a slaughterhouse for many years, so most colored folks avoided him generally. But white folks liked my Pa fine. Many a night I seen my Pa fill up on joy juice and leap atop the bar at Dutch Henry's, snipping his scissors and hollering through the smoking gym, "The Lord's coming. He's a-coming to gnash out your teeth and tear out your hair," then fling himself into the crowd of the meanest, low-down, piss-drunk Missouri rebels you ever saw. And while they mostly clubbed him to the floor and kicked out his teeth, them white fellas did no more blame my Pa for flinging himself at them in the name of the Holy Ghost than if a tornado was to come along and toss them across the room. But the spirit of the Redeemer, who spilt his blood, was serious business out on the prairie in them days. And your basic white pioneer was no stranger to the notion of hope. Most of them was fresh out of their commodity anyway, having come west on a notion that hadn't worked out the way it was drawn up. So anything that helped him out of bed to kill off Indians and not drop dead from fever and rattlesnakes was a welcome change. It helped, too, that Pa made some of the best rot gut in Kansas Territory. Though he was a preacher, Pa weren't against a taste or 3. And like as not, the same gunslingers who tore out his hair and knocked him cold would pick him up afterwards and say, "Let's liquor." And the whole bunch of them would wander off and howl at the moon, drinking Pa's giddy sauce. Pa was right proud of his friendship with the white race, something he claimed he learned from the Bible. "Son," he'd say, "always remember the book of Hezekiah, 12th chapter, 17th verse. Hold up thy glass to thine thirsty neighbor, Captain Ahab, and let him drinketh his fill."